This ranking video is brought to you by my lovely patrons, Alum and Cameron Strauss. For as little as $3 a month, you can get your name shouted out at the start of every Xenosanctum video, as well as access to bonus behind the scenes content, link in the description below. Hey guys, so one of the oldest pieces of content on this channel was a pair of videos I made going over the top 3 and bottom 3 Xeno games. Now 5 years have passed since then, and a whole bunch of new games have come out, thus I feel it's about time that I retackle a ranking list as I rank all the Xeno games from worst to best. Now, before we begin, I wasn't too happy with how my last video turned out, with me ranking games like Xenoblade Chronicles X below the first 2 Xenosaga games. So today I want to rank the series a bit differently. To rank these games, I will propose the following question. If I had to remove a Xeno game from existence, which one would it be? That game will then be at the bottom of my list. I will then repeat this process until I get only one game left. So now with that established, let's get on to the rankings. Unlisted: Xenosaga Freaks, Xenosaga Pied Piper and Xenosaga DS. These 3 games are here for the obvious reason that I haven't had the chance to play them. While I have Xenosaga Freaks in my collection, and an English menu patch of Xenosaga DS on my R4 card, I have yet to play these games in any capacity to allow me to properly rank them. I do plan to cover these games in the near future, so look out for those upcoming videos. Honourable mention: Xenosaga Episode II to 3, A Missing Year. Now some of you might be asking what the heck this even is, so I'll explain. Xenosaga A Missing Year is a series of flash movies released by Monosoft in Japan that fills in the events that occurred between the end of Xenosaga Episode II and the beginning of Xenosaga Episode III. The story is quite fascinating and goes into the history of Lost Jerusalem, as well as gives a background to the mysterious character of Nephilim. However, this is meant to be a ranking list of the games, and this isn't exactly a game. However, just like the previous titles I've talked about, I do want to cover Xenosaga A Missing Year as well in a retrospective at a later date. Now let's get on to the main rankings with Number 10, Xenoblade Chronicles Future Connected. Okay, so one of the games had to be at the bottom of the list, and when it came to deciding which one got put here, I had to go with Future Connected. While I don't have much to hate about this game, I also don't have much to like about it either. While I was excited to see Shulk and Melia post the main game, my excitement quickly faded as this game turned into a small little story that didn't amount to much. The combat too is just the main game's combat with most of the interesting parts removed, leaving the gameplay feeling very dry. I know that this is a free add-on game, but money doesn't factor into these rankings, and as we'll see later on, Monosoft can still make pretty impressive small games. Number 9, Xenosaga Episode I, Du Willi Zut Much. Yep, still down here at the bottom of the list, and for much of the same reasons as last time. While I have grown appreciation for this game, I still stand by the fact that this game feels incredibly unpolished in both gameplay and soundtrack. While the story, animation and voice acting in the game are well ahead of their time, at the end of the day this is a video game, and as such my focus remains on how fun they are to play, and here Xenosaga Episode I fails badly. From useless skill systems to overly repetitive music, this is not a game I really find myself wanting to play again. Number 8, Xenosaga Episode II, Gensuts von Gut Anbois. And it's the game that most people put at the bottom of their lists. Personally, I think this game gets way too much hate for what it is. On the gameplay side, while the zoning and stocking systems can get annoying, it's still an improvement over the brain-dead combat from the first game. Also, this game literally set the basis for what would become Xenoblade's battle system. Soundtrack-wise, Yuki Kajura delivers an awesome soundtrack, and while not as good, Shinji Hosoe's gameplay music is much nicer to listen to than any of the gameplay tracks from Episode 1. Another thing I feel like gets overlooked by this game's haters is the character development in this game. A lot of those great character moments that we take for granted in the modern games was started here, and I think characters like Junior need much more love, as he scenes with Sakura and Albedo as truly some of the series' best moments. Number 7, Xenogears. Now I have a confession to make. I have not fully played through Xenogears in a long time. My retrospective back in 2020 only saw me play the game for the first few hours before I decided to quickly move on to the Xenosaga trilogy. As a result, my 2015 playthrough remains the only time I completed this game, back when I was still quite a novice to the series. I just find the game too long and lacking in content to keep me going, in contrast to the later Xenoblade games. While I enjoyed the mechs and combat system, it unfortunately can't keep me playing this game as the hours roll on. Maybe I'll revisit this game someday and play it from start to finish, and maybe then I'll see why this game tops so many Xenofans' lists, but as for now, it remains right in the middle for me as a solid entry, but one showing its age. Number 6, Xenoblade Chronicles X. Now for the game that has jumped up massively on my list. When I first ranked all the Xeno games, this game came dead last due to its lackluster story and characters. However, revisiting this game for my retrospectives, I have grown a much greater appreciation for what this game is. While this game still remains a terrible Xeno game, I cannot ignore how much of a great overworld RPG this game is. There's just something so fun about running around with superhuman jumping abilities, as well as driving/flying around in your own personalised mech. This game pushes customization to a whole new level in the series, and the multiplayer elements are also pretty neat too. Also, shoutouts to Anel for explaining how Overlook works. Combat is definitely way more fun when you actually understand how it works. I guess at the end of the day there's still one reason to keep playing my Wii U from time to time. Number 5. Xenoblade Chronicles II. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is definitely a game I struggle to rank on this list. Some days I see this game as an incredible sequel that is just as good if not better than the Wii original, but then other days I see it as a garbage waifu simulator with cringy characters. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is definitely a flawed game with its annoying blade gacha mechanics and battle systems that's odd with itself due to things like driver combos being extremely difficult to pull off because half the blades don't have driver combo arts. I also can't help but feel overwhelmed when playing this game. Both times I have played this game I have often been left mentally exhausted by the end of the game as I find myself having to do one task in order to complete another task so that I can do what I originally wanted to do. While I still love Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I think I can quite confidently say that it's the weakest of the 3 mainline Xenoblade games. Number 4. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Torna the Golden Country. Yes, the spin-off story that is in my opinion better than the main game. Torna fixes practically every problem I had with Xenoblade Chronicles 2, from blade gacha to driver combos to field skills to the character designs. It's sure to Link 2 is a boon in my opinion as it can now 100% a Xenoblade game and not waste half a year doing it. While the story is a much smaller scale compared to the other games in the series, I personally enjoyed the more character-driven plot, as you really get to know the characters like Laura and Adam before they become these legendary figures in the main game. It's a real shame that so many people will never get to play this incredible little game because they can't sit through the slog that is the main game of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Although now that I've said that, I am curious, are there people out there who've only played this game by itself? Number 3. Xenosaga Episode III, also Scratch Zarathustra. And now for the highest rated non-Xenoblade game on the list. What can I say about this game other than it's near perfect? Coming into the Xenosaga series after finishing the original Xenoblade, I was somewhat let down by the poor quality of gameplay of episodes 1 and 2, and as a result my expectations for the third game were quite low. However, with the series on its deathbed, Monosoft would pull out all the stops to create, in my opinion, the greatest JRPG to grace the PS2. From the incredibly smooth and fast-paced turn-based combat system, to the incredible score by Yuki Kajura, to the climactic conclusion of the trilogy, I love Xenosaga Episode III. Its success remains the worst-selling game in the series, and is now worth well over $200 on the used markets, because more people need to play this game. Maybe Namco and Monosoft will finally come to their senses and make the Xenosaga trilogy available on modern systems, so that others too can experience this game in all its glory. Number 2. Xenoblade Chronicles III. Now for the game which might be well on its way to the top spot. I've been playing this game for over a month, and yet in all that time I have never gotten bored as I keep playing around with the different class setups. On top of classes, I love the hero system. Being able to play with the majority of the game's side characters is awesome, and the unique combat styles they bring helps make this one of the best combat systems in the series. There's just something so satisfying about rolling the biggest number possible in the last hit of a chain attack. The only thing currently holding this game back from the top of my list is the somewhat generic cast of villains who fail to leave a solid impression, combined with a way too generous level up system that makes the game way too easy to complete. Also, the music is kind of lame in comparison to the previous Xenoblade games. However, I might end up looking past these things in the future. Only time will tell where this game finally ends up. Maybe further down the list or perhaps the top, but as of now, my number 1 pick hasn't changed much since last time. Number 1. Xenoblade Chronicles. As the game that got me into the series, Xenoblade Chronicles will always hold a special place in my heart, which might explain how it's been able to stay at the top of my list against the likes of Xenoblade Chronicles 3. From the incredible world of the Bionis and Mykonos to the amazing story of revenge that evolves into a massive plot that undermines the very fabric of the universe. Also that music. Xenoblade Chronicles' main theme is still the greatest theme song to any game I have ever played, and the game's soundtrack is also a blast to listen to. Nearly all of my favourite games I can identify flaws that hinder the overall experience, but not so with Xenoblade Chronicles. Completing this game 3 times, I have basically seen everything this game has to offer, and I still can't find any major flaws with the game. It's for this reason that I can feel confident putting this game at the top of my list. And with that, we've come to the end of the video. I know there's still a lot of debate between which of the games is the best in the series, with Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Xenoblade Chronicles X and Xenogears gracing the tops of a lot of people's lists, despite my lower opinions of them. So I put the question out to you, how do you rank the series? I'll be sure to read all your comments, so until then I'll see you later.